Welcome to the Kapital News. I'm your host, Alex Karitis. Today is Friday, August 14th, 2020. Thank you so much for joining me. My apologies for being away yesterday. So we're going to make sure we catch up on some of Thursday's data. Title of today's podcast, Benefits Ending, What Next? Of course, we already are aware that the $600 additional weekly benefit from the federal government has expired. And now it's a question of what happens next. Congress is going on recess again because why not? That's what they're going to do because that's what they always do. We're in the midst of an economic collapse. We're in the midst of the greatest depression, and these jokers cannot get anything done. And now they're going home, they're going back on recess on vacation. They can bail out, they can assist at the drop of a hat. The largest corporations, not only American corporations, but the corporations around the world, with your money. And if they lose, it's backstopped with more of your money. We here at the Kapital News are 100% against bailouts across the board. Across the board. But if you are going to give billions and billions and billions of dollars, if not trillions by the time this is all said and done, to the world's largest corporations by purchasing their corporate debt directly from them, from the primary credit facility that is managed by the Federal Reserve, or the secondary market corporate credit facility, meaning they're going to buy the bonds that are already held by investors who hold these bonds, thus, in essence, bailing them out because you know they're going to pay a premium to what they otherwise would be if there wasn't this artificial stimulus coming into the market. But they can't give you an extra $600, which, for many people in this country, is their only lifeline. Because there's no leadership, there's no creative thought process with anybody, and now, presumably, the Republicans want to make it seem like they have a spine. So now they say, oh, well, we have to be concerned with future generations. What's going to happen to our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren? They didn't give a damn a few months ago when it was 96-0, no votes for America, with the Nobody Cares Act. $4 trillion deficits this year alone, getting very closer to hitting that mark. And believe me, by the time the end of fiscal year 2020, which will come to a conclusion at the end of September, by the time we hit that date, we will be over $4 trillion. Not the official, but the actual budget deficit. And we talked about that a few days ago as well. They didn't seem to care about that, the Republicans. Now, all of a sudden, no, I don't know. This 600 is a little bit too much. 600 is a little bit too much. There's no incentive to go back to work. Well, it really depends on how long this goes for. And again, I'm against it. But if you're going to give it to Apple, the world's largest corporation, and by market cap, if you were to equate it to GDP, would be one of the largest countries on planet Earth. If we can continue to bail them out, we can make Tim Cook, or as President Trump calls him, Tim Apple, a billionaire. Why can't we give the average Jane and Joe an additional $600? This is why you don't do it at all, which has been my argument from day one. Day one, when all of these shenanigans were in the process of becoming law. Even some before they were even in the process. Because I knew what was going to happen. You can read the writing on the wall, what these jokers, what these idiots were going to do. It's as clear as day what they were going to do. Not only have I stated it numerous times on this podcast, I put it in writing. It's on the capitalnews.com website. Representation and recourse. Check it out. That letter was submitted to my congressmen and to my senators. That they, in addition to the other lunatics in Congress, in the White House, and in conjunction with the Federal Reserve, were going to use this pandemic as an excuse to justify the unjustifiable. And that's exactly what they are doing, and they're continuing to do it. They can somehow justify continuing to purchase bonds of the world's largest corporations. But they can't seem to justify giving individuals and families an additional $600 a week. Now you solve that riddle and you let me know how that works. You understand why I've been telling you that protests and riots are going to be coming to a theater near you? We ain't seen nothing yet, people. Wake up. Wake up to the reality of what is coming. Because I have an interesting article. It was written about last week, actually. I think it was August 9th was the date. Makes no difference. Independent news outlet. And it sort of answers a couple of questions that I have been posing to the audience for a while, and especially in regards to the PPP loans. And is there really demand for these jobs, or are employers just calling their employees back so that loan can become a grant unless it's forgiven? Well, we have some anecdotal evidence via this article. I'm just going to read a few paragraphs from it shortly. But I just want you to ask yourself, because this is obviously a political year, how do you think this is going to play for these politicians? The Democrats, they're as ridiculous as ever, and they wanted to pass another $3 trillion bill. Why not? Call that the Nobody Cares Act Junior. Republicans, well, we were maybe around $1 trillion. Maybe around $1 trillion. Oh, those fiscal conservatives, thank God. $1 trillion, that's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. That's a drop in the bucket. And there is no doubt, there is no question that both parties have their little special interests that they're going to sneak in and weave into the bill. It's not one-sided. It's not just the Democrats adding pork, or it's not just the Republicans. It's both of them. Wake up. Wake up. They're both stealing our money left and right. But the interesting thing, and the interesting question is, how does this play politically? How does this play politically? Will the Republicans look like the bad guys because it's fine to give money to purchase corporate debt of Apple and Amazon and Microsoft and Toyota and BMW, etc., etc.? There's a list. There's 800 of them. Go look it up. Perfectly fine for them to do that. Additional $600. Now we got to cut it down to $200. Not jiving, politically speaking, and that's what I'm asking here. Forget the economics of it. That's gone. This is the Greatest Depression. I'm talking about the politics. How will this be played out? Especially if something is not extended. Because this is all a lot of people have. That's it. So just ask yourself how this is going to play out. Because the president, he can pretend to sign an executive order. He can actually do it. It's unconstitutional. He can't do it. He doesn't have the authority to do it. The power of the purse resides with Congress. The power to tax resides with Congress. He cannot suspend the payroll tax cut, or the payroll tax. He cannot extend through an executive order, through the swipe of a pen, unemployment extensions. He cannot do it. He's supposed to be the greatest deal maker ever. We're in the midst of a crisis. He can't make anything happen? Or politically, is this what they want? Because now they can blame the Democrats. They wanted too much. We're not going to put that on future generations because now all of a sudden we are finally concerned with future generations. Give me a break. You see how messed up all of this is? This is why you don't do it. The government gets in the business of picking winners and losers. Well, guess what, folks? Get out a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle of it. On the left side, write winners. On the right side, write losers. And on the left side, on the winner side, you write Apple and Amazon and BMW. And on the right side, you write all the losers. The average Jane and Joe. Small business owners who got screwed because they weren't deemed to be necessary businesses. They could sell the same stuff that is sold in Walmart or the Home Depot, but Walmart and the Home Depot also put them on the left side of this ledger under the winners column. They're necessities. They can stay open. But if you're a small business that sells the same exact stuff, got to shut it down. Got to shut it down. And maybe if we can get our act together, and maybe if banks want to comply and actually do this too, maybe you'll get a PPP loan. And maybe it'll be forgiven. Or maybe it's already too late. Maybe you're screwed. Maybe the Federal Reserve, through their Main Street lending facility, will get up to speed and they'll take care of you. Oh, no, that hasn't happened, folks. That hasn't happened. I think one of the most up-to-date figures on the Main Street lending facility from the Federal Reserve is about $87 million. $87 million. Not billion, million. That's nothing compared to what they've done. For the left side of this ledger, the winners column. But don't worry about it. They're concerned about you. Don't worry about it. Come November 3rd, go into your little fancy voting booth, pull your lever, and get your little sticker that says, I voted. Good job. You voted for the idiots who are going to continue to do the same damn thing over and over again, and you're going to walk out scratching your head. The next time you're about to go in another 2-4 years, I can't figure out why they couldn't fix it. Because it's the same idiots doing the same stuff. Don't vote for them. Don't vote or vote third party. Send a message, a peaceful message, that you are sick and tired of these shenanigans, of this nonsense, of this insanity. I don't know how you can endorse this. I don't understand how you can justify the unjustifiable. I don't know how you can pick sides of a Republican or a Democrat at this juncture. I don't get it. What are you not paying attention to? What do you not get? They all signed off on it. The streets, you're worried about the protests and the riots. Trump wants to claim he's law and order president, that there's going to be protests and riots if Biden's in. Newsflash, ladies and gentlemen, that stuff's already taken place. Who's the president? Trump. He could get away with that crap 4 years ago when he was a candidate. He said, I'm going to be the new sheriff in town. Law and order from coast to coast. He can get away with it then. He's here now. It's happening under his watch. I'm not laying it all on him because it's not all his fault. But you can't come out and say, I'm the law and order president, and there's going to be protests and riots in the streets if Biden becomes president. Because there's already protests and riots in the streets now. And neither one of them is going to solve the issue that we are dealing with, or the issues that we're dealing with, that I am discussing here now and have been discussing here since this podcast has been online. They are not seriously discussing any of them. They don't want to be honest or truthful with you. They don't want to tell you what is coming. They know what's coming. They know what's coming. You think they don't have people in the government who do worst case scenarios? They knew the pandemic was a possibility. Were we prepared for it? No. Just because they know, and maybe just because they have a plan, doesn't mean they're going to execute it, doesn't mean it's going to be executed well. which we clearly see, which is just par for the course when it comes to government. The incompetence, the arrogance, the flat-out stupidity, the corruption, the nepotism. It's one after the next. It is one after the next. And it's going to continue, and it's going to get worse. Initial claims data came out yesterday. Let's see, I got so many things open, right? Okay. Week ending August 8th. Initial claims, 963,000. Finally below the 1 million mark, the first time in months. I think what has been 18, 19 weeks. 963,000. This is down 228,000 from the week prior, which stood at 1,191,000. That was revised up from the prior week's initial number. On the continuing claims figure, which lags a week, so this is going to be for the week ending August 1st, 15.48 million. 15.48 million Americans filing continuing claims. This is a decrease from the week prior, which would have been July 25th. This is a decrease of some 604,000. Moving in the right direction, but as we know, there are so many distortionary effects out there, it's very difficult to get a true picture, which is why I'm going to read briefly a couple paragraphs from an article that sort of has some sort of anecdotal evidence that people aren't really back to work. They're there, but not much work to be done. So when you add it all up, and again, this also lags, this is a couple weeks. When it comes to the grand total, this will be for the week ending July 25th. When you add up the regular state unemployment benefits, federal employees, newly discharged veterans, pandemic unemployment assistance, pandemic emergency UC unemployment compensation, extended benefits, state additional benefits, and a work share, you have a grand total of 28,257,000,000 Americans continuing to claim some sort of unemployment benefit. 28.2 million. That is a decrease from the prior week, which would have been the week ending July 18th, of slightly over 3 million. Well, once you start to have these programs expiring, well, it makes sense that these numbers are going to go down. When you have an extension of the PPP program, the PPP loans, it makes sense if those loans are going to be forgiven, and you have to comply with that, obviously. You got to get people off of unemployment and back onto payroll. So the picture is skewed. It's distorted. We're not going to get the true picture for quite a while. But we know, intuitively, logically, from common sense, that it is not pretty at all. And unfortunately, it's not going to get better anytime soon. But here briefly is this article. They're more of a focus on New York City. The city's unemployment rate hit 20.4% in June, and few prospects for reemployment exists. Those asked to return to their jobs also face precarious financial situations. If they refuse to return, they are ineligible to continue receiving unemployment benefits. Jeremy Cole, who tends bar at a sushi restaurant in downtown Manhattan, said he'd been called back to work after his employer received money from the Paycheck Protection Program. Business has remained slow. Quote, I see only one or two customers and have to split what I make 4 or 5 ways because the company has to bring everyone back on payroll. So we all just stand around for 13 hours a day. Cole said he works 3 days a week, but wages and the $108.75 he still receives weekly from the Department of Labor can't compare to his prior earnings. Quote, at work, I make about $200 a week after taxes. He said far less than the approximately $1,500 he brought home each week prior to the pandemic. As the financial strain continues across New York, so do concerns about hunger. And before we get to this hunger issue and a couple other things, this is sort of the anecdotal evidence, the question I've been throwing out there, because I haven't come across many surveys yet as to getting a bigger picture of this scenario, which to us, to me here at the Capital News, this makes sense. There isn't a lot of demand for a lot of these jobs, whether it's service related or production related. But if you got hit by the shutdown, which most businesses did in one way or another, you laid employees off. You want to get those loans, you want to turn them into grants, you got to bring them back, whether they're standing around for 13 hours or not. It's what you have to do. That's the real issue. These programs were implemented to keep the unemployment figures as low as possible. Lower than what they otherwise would have been. But had we known this information, you can start making better decisions. From policy standpoint, from business standpoints, etc., etc. Because you have better information. You have better information, you can make better decisions. You have bad data, you're going to make poor decisions. You add that up in aggregate across the country, you got a problem. You add that up in aggregate across the world because they're all doing it, you got a bigger problem. The Greatest Depression is not just here in the United States, it is global. It is global. We've seen the total collapse of economies, and we're going to continue to see them. Lebanon, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Argentina, Iran in the not-too-distant future, Turkey perhaps in the not-too-distant future. And the list goes on and on and on. And to think that our country and other large countries are going to be immune from this, give me a break. Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. So hopefully we start to see other surveys as to, and if somebody has come across it, please send it to me because I'd be happy to share it with the audience. So if you found something, you've come across something, a survey or some study of how many people are actually sort of just doing what this gentleman's doing. Yeah, he got called back to work, but he's just standing there for 13 hours. I would like some more information. So now sort of to the hunger issue here. Quote, overall, over the course of this year, we're projecting to see food insecurity rates increase by 38% for the general population and 49% for children, said Jerome Nathaniel, the Associate Director of Policy and Government Relations at City Harvest. Nathaniel stressed that the Black and brown communities hit particularly hard by COVID-19 were more at risk for food insecurity. But make no mistake about it, folks. We got farmers who are destroying millions and millions of dollars worth of produce. This is where the government, in this type of situation, should have shown some type of leadership to get ahead of this, to do something to secure this food. You can bail out Apple, not the kind you eat. You can bail out Apple and Amazon and BMW. Maybe you should have bought some heads of lettuce so people don't starve to death. That's what I'm saying. If they give it to these people, and that's the other ridiculous thing, it's not like Apple and Amazon and so many of these other large corporations couldn't go out into the marketplace to find liquidity if they needed it. Banks were still operating. There are still people with money. There's a lot of billionaires out there if they wanted to give them their money, if they thought it was worth the investment. A lot of private equity firms, a lot of venture capital. There's a lot of money out there. Pension funds are still in existence. They could have done it. They could have given it to them. Why does it have to be the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department? Backstopped by you. These are serious questions to ponder. Ask your congressman these questions. Why is it okay to give them billions at the drop of a hat, but my neighbor, they're suffering that extra 600, that's a lifeline. Screw them. They're only going to get 200 if they're lucky. Make heads or tails of it. This is going to get nasty. We haven't seen anything yet. Make no mistake about it. Continuing, we certainly anticipate there's going to be a greater need, and we're already preparing for that with the expectation of delivering as much as 109 million pounds of food this fiscal year through the end of June. While non-governmental organizations rush to provide vital assistance, New York politicians are hearing worries about the impact of the Senate's failure to pass a stimulus bill. People are on the verge of personal collapse. I mean, unfortunately, a rising trend that we are going to witness is going to be in crime and across the board, and it's also going to be with suicides because people are going broke. They are losing their jobs, their livelihood, their businesses. They are going to get evicted from their apartments, from their homes. This is coming. How much longer can you extend all of this stuff? How much longer can you keep these moratoriums going? Yeah, the landlord probably doesn't own the property outright either. He could very well be a middle-class couple who purchased a second or third or fourth home, not to live in all of them, but to rent them out. So they're carrying mortgages on all of those homes. Well, if their tenants aren't paying, then that couple can't pay the bank those mortgages. So what's going to happen? Is that couple, are they going to be foreclosed on because they're not allowed to evict their current tenants to find someone new? And that's going to be a difficult task in and of itself too. So bad this picture is? You see how weak our system is? This is the grand reveal, ladies and gentlemen. It's in your face. It is so obvious. This is why our economy is so weak fundamentally. The global economy. Because it's built on a foundation of sand. All of this funny money, all of this debt and credit, that's why so many people are suffering, have been suffering, paycheck to paycheck, don't have money saved. You know the statistics. And it's going to get worse because all of this Nobody Cares Act business and all of this funny money printing from the Federal Reserve and others just kicking the can down the road. The day of reckoning is still coming. Make no mistake about it. So that was that. There were some other interesting things in here. Let me scroll down here so I can find it. Hopefully I don't run past it. It had to do with moratoriums and evictions. Okay, the Aspen Institute, that's what it was. The Aspen Institute warned on Friday, again, this would have been last Friday, that 30 to 40 million people are at risk of eviction in the coming months without, quote, robust and swift intervention. Well, what do they want them to do? What robust and swift intervention? 30 to 40. My goodness, couple months ago, we were talking about 20 to 28. That was the projection from an attorney who she works in the eviction field. She deals with this. It's her career. 20 to 28. Now we got 30 to 40. The great financial crisis. At the heart of it. Big chunk of it. Housing problem. Big housing problem. 10 million Americans got evicted over the course of a couple years. Now we're up to 20 to 28, 30 to 40 million over the course of a few months. And you think everything's going to be okay. You think there's going to be a V-shaped recovery. They insult your intelligence every single day. And a lot of you buy it because it's on TV. It's an authority figure. You want to trust the authority figure. You want to believe your government. And you want to hope that there is going to be a V-shaped recovery, a strong rebound. No, it ain't going to happen. Sorry. We have a big problem, and it's not going to be solved by wishful thinking. It's going to be solved by sound policy, which we do not have. The options that should be adopted is the restoration of our Constitution and free market capitalism. But those things don't even seem to be on the table. Those don't even seem to be discussed. But rest assured, if and when this continues to go down, and it will, free market capitalism is going to get the blame. Even though what we are witnessing and what we have been experiencing for years ain't even close. It's not even close. Some other interesting information. I was having a conversation with my brother. He happened to be, we're from the state of Pennsylvania here. So here's a little bit more, a little anecdotal evidence of how screwed up the government is at managing everything and just how chaotic it is for so many individuals and families. But I guess the Pennsylvania Department of Labor was putting on some sort of town hall or teleconference. And I don't believe my brother actually was in on that call, but he followed up, he learned about it, and went on the website, and I guess they have their Twitter feed up there, and a lot of people were posting their comments about the town hall, about the teleconference, and about their individual circumstances. Well, I guess in the state of Pennsylvania, some 90,000 individuals have not received any payments whatsoever for unemployment insurance. 90,000. Now, of course, some of those are probably individuals, single men, single women, still devastating to them. But how many are mothers and fathers who have children to feed, who might also be on the brink of becoming evicted? Do you see how devastating this is? This is going to be because of the incompetence, because of a fake and fraudulent system built on debt and credit. They make it up out of thin air. But if you mess up and miss a payment, they're coming after you. They're coming after the asset, and they're going to get the real thing. They make it up. You mess up, they get the real thing. It's hard for them to lose, isn't it? And if they do mess things up, well, guess what? Well, you get to bail them out, too. They get bailed out, too. And guess what? Who backstops them? That's right, you do. What a world. What a world. What a system. And everybody wants to go vote and get their sticker and vote for a lunatic who's been there for 40 years, who doesn't know what's going on like he hasn't for 40 years. And you got another lunatic in the White House who clearly does not know what he's doing. The Fed was a problem when he was a candidate. Now they're the savior. This will never be a socialist nation so long as I'm the president of the United States. Who said that? Oh, that's right. Trump did. Trump did. Does this look and sound more like free market capitalism or socialism? We are nationalizing these corporations because it's the Federal Reserve in conjunction with the Treasury Department with a little special purpose vehicle that is financing all of this, that is buying up all this debt, corporate debt. And you're on the hook for it. And the amounts that have been appropriated from Congress, by Congress, to the SPV, to the Treasury, whatever you want to call it, to this fraud, from the Nobody Cares Act, can be levered up 10 to 1. 10 to 1. Nobody Cares Act, here it is. We're running a little bit longer today, my apologies, but I'm not going to do one. I'm not going to do one to make up for not being here on Thursday. So this one's going to be a little bit longer, but we're going to wrap it up here shortly. This is a frequently asked questions from the Federal Reserve here. Just as a reminder, in what way is the U.S. Department of the Treasury supporting the CCFs, the corporate credit facilities, the primary and the secondary? Okay? The Department of Treasury, using funding from the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, known as the CARES Act, scratch that, the Nobody Cares Act, has committed to make $75 billion in equity investment in the SPV, the special purpose vehicle, for both of the CCFs. The initial allocation of the equity will be $50 billion towards the primary corporate credit facility and $25 billion towards the secondary market corporate credit facility. Is there a limit to the size of the SPV? Well, wouldn't one think that that was answered in the previous question? They said $75 billion. Shouldn't that be enough? The combined size of the CCFs will be up to $750 billion. 10 times. There's your leverage, ladies and gentlemen. 10 times. The PM CCF will leverage Treasury's equity at 10 to 1 when acquiring corporate bonds or syndicated loans from eligible issuers that are investment grade at the time of purchase. Well, the Fed thinks everybody's investment grade. Everybody gets a trophy. The PMCCF, except small businesses, will leverage Treasury's equity at 7 to 1 when acquiring corporate bonds or syndicated loans from eligible issuers that are rated below investment grade at the time of purchase, yada, yada, yada. The SM, the secondary market corporate credit facility, will leverage Treasury's equity at 10 to 1 as well when acquiring corporate bonds of issuers that are investment grade at the time of purchase and when acquiring ETFs, exchange-traded funds, whose primary investment objective is exposure to U.S. investment-grade corporate bonds. The SMCCF will leverage Treasury's equity at 7 to 1 when acquiring corporate bonds of issuers that are rated below investment grade at the time of purchase and in a range between 3 to 1 and 7 to 1 depending on risk when acquiring any type of eligible assets. So there's some of your details. This was known. They're leveraging everything up, but they don't want to continue with the $600 that is going, which with in the absence of it, is going to bust so many people. And again, and I have to make this crystal clear, I'm against all this stuff, but if you're going to give money to Apple, you got to give money to the people too. And this is why you're going to see pitchforks in the street in the not-too-distant future. It is going to get so ridiculously ugly and nasty, it's not even funny. And I hope and pray to God that I am 100% wrong. I mean, we're already seeing it in other countries. I don't view the United States of America as being the exception to this at all. At all. In fact, it could be much worse here. But let's hope and pray that that's not the case. Let's hope and pray that I am wrong. I, for one, am doing that. Enjoy your weekend, ladies and gentlemen. If there's some big news, of course, I will be on Sunday evening for a week ahead segment. If not, I'll be back on Monday. Stay diversified, stay vigilant, and stay with the Capital News. I am Alex Karitis. Godspeed.